Brian Windhorst, I ask you, what happened with Anthony Davis last night?
Well, specifically, the Warriors changed up his primary defender. They went to Draymond Green, who guarded him double as much as he did in Game 1. That seemed to be effective. The Warriors went to a strategy change of going to a smaller lineup, which happened to coincide with Kevon Looney being sick. I don't know what to make of that. That could have been something that they could have used to try to throw off the Lakers, but I don't want to, assume that he wasn't feeling ill, so whatever. Spreading the floor. At the end of the game, in Game 1, they went small, had a lot of success. They decided to start Game 2 off that way. And look, just be honest, AD didn't have the same aggression level, didn't have the same activity level in Game 2. That's just the truth of it. This is now 16 consecutive times a road team has won Game 1 in a playoff series and then lost Game 2. It is human nature. It just seems to happen. We've seen it happen 3 times this week. The Knicks, the Warriors, and obviously the Celtics, all 3 times, lose Game 1 at home, come back to win Game 2 in the last 2 nights in lopsided fashion.
That's fair, but there has been a consistency issue with Anthony Davis throughout these playoffs.
For a decade.
Right, for a lot of playoffs and regular seasons. What do you think, CJ? Is this more about AD being inconsistent or what the Warriors did to him?
I think it was both. I think historically, AD's been up and down. It gives you 30 and 10 one night, it gives you 15 and 12 the next night, which is still very good, but his skill set is so good. You're just confused as to why the energy level isn't always there. There wasn't a sense of urgency tonight, and we understand that because historically, teams kind of relax and let go of the rope, understanding they're going back home. But for them to win this series, he has to be aggressive. But credit Draymond. He wanted the matchup. He was aggressive. He was intentional about his physicality, and specifically keeping him off the free throw line was very, very important for them because that's how he gets his rhythm and is able to make those jump shots.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's no criticism to Draymond, Monica, to say that Anthony Davis is the kind of player that should be able to overcome whatever they throw at him, right? So his inconsistency up and down, game to game, is that the kind of thing that could really cost the Lakers this series?
Well, I think Anthony Davis is the X factor in this series, point blank period. If he has games that are reminiscent of Game 1, that greatly, in my mind, swings the pendulum in the favor of the Lakers. But we've all just said it. Can you maintain that level of production? And that's a tall task. Look, last night was a less than stellar showing all around for the Lakers. Darvin Ham talked about it a little bit post-game, early in the game in terms of his eye test and what he saw from his team. But I think you knew that the Warriors were going to make adjustments. And Wendy, you said it after Game 1, and I thought you nailed it. Game 1 was probably 60% adrenaline, 40% really great basketball players. I don't know that we're going to get a game at that pace that is that good again. And then all things considered, the Lakers won that ball game, but it was still a single possession ball game down the stretch. And so tonight, I wasn't surprised by Anthony Davis in particular, but I think that was his performance was sort of added to by the total team effort, right? Like the Lakers in general were just kind of, all right, we gave all we had in Game 1 for this particular section of this.
But you were saying, Wendy, in our meeting this morning, like the Lakers, their ability to maintain what we saw in Game 1 for an entire series, we can't count on that, right?
I didn't think it was possible. And so, to be honest with you, the Lakers get on the plane last night to go home. They're 1-1.
Yeah.
LeBron only played 28 minutes. LeBron played well. They didn't exhaust themselves as much in Game 2. We kind of saw this against the Grizzlies. Now, I don't want to imply that the Grizzlies are the same level of opponent as the Warriors. They win Game 1. They kind of peel back in Game 2. They go home, take Games 3 and 4, Game 5, a little bit lower energy. Bring it and put it together and put them down in Game 6. I don't think they can count on that, but it was not a surprise to me at all to see this type of performance from the Lakers. And also, another major strategic move by the Warriors, putting Steph Curry more as a ball handler in more pick and rolls. He ends up with 12 assists, one of the highest assist games he's ever had in his career in the postseason. Lakers double team him because they're afraid of him, as they should be, and Klay has a great shooting game. Klay has not had a great shooting game for a while.
Right.
All of these things kind of go into the ebb and flow of a playoff series, and so I was 0% surprised the way this game played out, and I will be 0% surprised if the Lakers have to moderate their energy level as the series goes along.
I was like 20% surprised that it was that big of a hole. I didn't expect the Lakers to win the Game 2 per se, but the way they lost and final score, nah.
But it doesn't really matter, does it?
I know, it doesn't, but that was the little surprising part. I'll give you that.
But we talk about them being able to maintain their energy level. There are no breaks. This is every other night series, right? I mean, is that a concern for you about them specifically?
Yeah, it is for me. And I know that we keep saying they just have to do it 4 games in the next, my math is about what, next 5 or 3 in the next 5?
Yeah.
I don't think this is a 7-game series for the Lakers, for me personally. If this thing goes 7, to me, that is teeing up the Warriors to move on in fine fashion. I just think between the energy that is required of the Lakers in terms of defending, what we've seen in terms of their injury history. And LeBron looked great last night, but sometimes I wonder if that foot is a part of the equation. Like, I don't think they've got 7 games.
The Lakers have to like how they play at home, especially against the Warriors, who I know that they won 2 games in SAC.
Yeah.
They are not as good on the road. To me, the Lakers will definitely get one of the 2 in LA, and the swing game, whether that's game 3 or game 4, will decide how the series is going to go.
How do you see it?
I think the winner of game 3 wins the series. I think historically looking at what it's like when a team is 1-1 and you go into game 3, 79% of the time, if you win game 3, you win the series. And I think both teams understand that. You talked about them not wanting this to be a long series. It's not hard to play in LA. The hardest part about LA is things you do before the game and things you do after the game. So if we're being honest,
playoffs?
Even in the playoffs, if you're being honest, I think the Warriors win game 3, and I think this series, like you said before, does not go 7 because of the sense of urgency that they have. And I think the way the Warriors play, they can sustain that over and over and over again.
That part.
They're going to get open shots. Steph is going to have a nuclear game, and we don't know how AD is going to play, right, every night. But we do know that LeBron's foot is bothering him. So how often can he play 40 minutes if he has to while producing at an efficient level?
I think the Lakers win game 3.
Ooh.
And whoever wins game 4 wins the series.
Wait, what exactly do they need from Embiid tonight to win this game?
I know that there's a perception around this team that maybe it should be Harden because Harden scored 45 in game 1, that they should play through Harden because Embiid is limited a little bit. They are not going to win this series. They are not going to do anything in this postseason if they don't do what got them there, and that is ride the big fella. They played through the big fella in the high post. They use Harden as a leveraging point. They use Harden as a relief valve. The ball has got to go to Joel Embiid where he is dominated. He crushed the Celtics during the regular season. He averaged 37 and 12. They do not have a good matchup for him. They do have a good matchup for James Harden. They discovered that in game 2. They put Jaylen Brown on him. They pressured him full court. The concept that everything was A-okay and the difference between game 1 and game 2 was that Embiid came back and gummed up the works. I'm sorry, that's not what happened. What happened was they put the ball pressure on. They don't have an answer for a great Joel Embiid. I don't think he's going to be rusty, and that will be an incredibly great and charged environment tonight when Adam Silver hands him that award, and I suspect he will show his MVP form, at least for tonight.
You say they don't have an answer for him, but CJ, they did do something defensively against him in game 2 that you liked. What was it?
I like the way they loaded up. They loaded up against him, right? Didn't allow him to catch it at the elbow where he's been killer all season long with his ability to face up and jab and dribble and shoot fadeaways. And the thing that I liked most about what the Celtics did is they got out and ran and generated 3-point shots. I thought Embiid was a little passive. I didn't think he was as aggressive as he needed to be, but that was because he hadn't played in a couple weeks and he didn't want to mess up the team's flow. Tonight, he gets his trophy, he gets back to being himself, and I expect him to be very, very aggressive, and I expect him to take advantage of playing at home in Philly.
You know, look, I know I'm the football guy, right? But I'm watching as a fan. I know he's getting his MVP trophy tonight.
Yeah.
The first 2 games of this series have not been great support for Embiid as MVP. They won without him, and they lost with him.
Jeez,
so you tell me, like, what is it about Embiid that it will help them beat the Celtics?
His presence. I mean, this dude is a defensive juggernaut. He's an offensive powerhouse. It's funny, you mentioned the free throw line in particular. I had game 1 of the series versus the Nets, and very clearly Jacques Vaughn talked about how tough it is to double team him from the free throw line because he's able to pass, right? He's a willing facilitator as well. There's just no matchup on this Celtics roster for the combination of strength, size, and playmaking ability that Joel Embiid has, like point blank period. Now look, I do think that there is a version of James Harden that takes an uptick slightly from what we saw in the regular season and looks a little bit more like what we saw from game 1 that will benefit the Sixers, but overall, that's just guys being aggressive point blank period over the course of a series and making the defense have to deal with their decisions as opposed to allowing the defense to dictate what they have. But this dude is the MVP for a reason. Like, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Harden. Look, in game 1, they got everything they could have possibly wanted out of him. 45 points and shot over 50% from the field and from 3, but that was without Embiid in the lineup. When Embiid came back for game 2, Harden scored just 12 points on 2 of 14 from the field. So what does Harden, I mean, we all know what Joel Embiid has to be. He has to be the MVP. What does Harden have to be for them?
He's got to be aggressive. And listen, after that game 1, I thought James was almost clairvoyant, right? That might be a little bit of a strong word, but it came to mind. He talked about how he has to balance facilitating versus scoring. But he also said, this is something that I've done in the course of my career for a long time. It's kind of what he echoed to Ali after the game 1 performance, right? Like, I work on that shot all the time. And so, to me, James doesn't get the credit that he deserves in terms of being able to share that dual role, right? As a facilitator and as a scorer. But over the course of these playoffs, I think if he is aggressive, that only helps Joel Embiid, right? Jaylen Brown is one of the Celtics' best defenders. If he's got guys on their heels and is able to attack, particularly if they decide to take advantage of any type of transition, like that helps Joel Embiid ultimately. If he's shooting the 3-ball well, that creates spacing. And so James also has to understand, and I think he does, that he has the ability to score, and that is something that the Sixers need from him as well.
CJ, what are you looking for from Harden the rest of the way here?
I think he's definitely going to turn up. I think in game 2, he was kind of filling it out, similar to the other series that we watched last night. They got game 1 without Embiid. They're going home. Embiid's getting his trophy. He should get powers associated with getting his trophy from a mental confidence standpoint. You hold the trophy as MVP of the league. Harden, who's already won it, he's already hit big shots. He's already scored before. He knows what to do. He understands that he has to be more aggressive. And that's not just shooting. He's got to get downhill. He's got to put pressure on the rim. And one of the things that is very important about the fact that Jaylen Brown is guarding him is that if Harden attacks him, that's going to affect and impact his offense. And we've seen how good they are, even when Jason Tatum doesn't play well, but that's because Jaylen Brown historically plays well.
Yeah, look, in game 1, it wasn't just that Harden was great. The strategy employed by the Celtics burned them. They basically allowed Al Horford to single cover. There would be a screen, they would switch and put Al Horford on Harden. They were like, Harden couldn't get by anybody in the first round. Harden couldn't make a shot in the rim. We'll just put Horford on him. Well, he cooked Horford. So guess what happened in game 2? They didn't allow Al Horford on him in single coverage. So now, tonight, they'll be ready when they bring double coverage for Harden to make different plays. And a lot of times that's going to go to Embiid. To me, I think it's just like the Warriors-Lakers series. I think the 76ers win tonight, and whoever wins game 4 probably wins the series.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.